Still like sideways.
Sideways. Okay.
There we
So,
go.
okay, gotcha.
Perfect. How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Saturday, can't complain.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pleasure to officially meet you.
You as well. Thank you for reaching out. Always happy to talk to musicians and see what got them into music in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. It's my pleasure. I was checking out your stuff and your other interviews and things like that, and it looks really cool. And I was really into what you guys are about, and so yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. For those who may not know, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kris Anderson. The name of my band is the Would Be Thieves. We put a new song out on Halloween this year called Witches, and we're all really proud of it. And yeah, that's who I am.
It's a really fun song.
Thank you,
You're
thank you.
welcome. How did you get into music in the first place?
Um, at a very young age, my dad was musical. He played guitar. My neighbors were musical as well, playing guitar and drums. My grandfather uh, played guitar, and I grew up in the MTV generation. So when I was little and supposed to be watching Nickelodeon, I was watching MTV, and Guns N' Roses came on for the first time for me, seeing them, and I just thought those are the coolest guys I've ever seen. And when I grow up, I want to have long hair and tattoos and be in a rock and roll band.
Yeah, I can see that. uh, Pick, Picks and Sticks says, love the new song.
Oh, awesome! Thank you, guys. He's great. That's a great situation over there too. Fix and Sticks is awesome. I've done a couple interviews with them, and they are fantastic.
Very,
Fantastic.
very cool. So, is there a backstory or special meaning behind your band name?
Um, yeah, it's w- when I was a kid, my dad used to take me to this part of town in downtown Atlanta called Little Five Points.
Hmm.
Um, it's basically where all the freaks hang out. It's my favorite part of the world here. And as a kid, I think my dad took me there. I think to make me feel better. And my mom took me there as well. Because grew up in this like a small country town. And I was definitely the odd one out. And grew up around that type of situation where I was a total weirdo. So my dad took me somewhere. He's like, here, I'm gonna, show you somewhere that you'll fit in. And so we went to Little Five Points. That was my first experience, and we went to this store called Junkman's Daughter, and I remember seeing this sign at the front of the store that said, "To all would-be thieves, you will be beaten on sight." And uh, there's like a local skinhead crew.
Wow.
The non-racist kind. I actually got to know them really well later in life. And they were who did the security at this store. And I just remember seeing that. I was little and I just or young and looking at that sign. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I can't believe they would post something like that. And sure enough, like 30, 45 minutes later, me and my dad were still walking around the store, and someone tried to steal something from that store, and we watched these skinheads like beat the crap out of this person
Oh,
who
wow.
tried to and beat him on the sidewalk, and it left an impression on me. So for the rest of my life, I just kind of thought like the Would Be Thieves, was just a cool name, but it has nothing to do with anything really in
Yeah.
my life than that. But that's where it came from.
Oh, I
That's
can I can definitely see how that would stick with you for for a long time. But yeah, that is a cool name. It's a cool backstory too.
like I said, I later on, when I started going to like punk rock shows, when I was old enough to go on my own, punk rock shows, metal shows, all that kind of stuff, I later befriended those guys. The
Hmm.
same that worked the security there, and they were the nicest guys ever in the world. They were so cool. And we used to run pits, man. Like we'd get in there and just dominate, you know.
Yeah.
And they were always so great to me. So that kind of pushed that name even a little further into my life because, like I said, getting to know them, they were so good to me. That I just, I just kind of held on to that and named my band that later.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool. Yeah, well, you mentioned growing up on MTV and Guns N' Roses, things like that. Who are some of your biggest musical influences?
um, geez, probably Social Distortion,
I
Alkaline.
love Social Distortion.
Yeah, I love that. That was the thing. Like growing up in that time frame, I'm an '80s baby, but a '90s kid, and so it started out with that kind of '80s rock stuff, Guns N' Roses and that kind of thing. But as I really started to play guitar and get into music and really start to learn, it was the '90s. So, and punk rock came through and really changed my life. Like I was into all the grunge bands, Pearl Jam and all that stuff, and still love them. And metal has always been there. That I've always loved that. But the punk rock thing really came in and just kind of, I don't know. I felt like I found my identity. I felt like I could relate to that more. So Social Distortion, Rancid, Alkaline Trio, AFI,
Hmm.
all those '90s punk rock
Yeah,
bands.
I love all those bands. I feel like we probably grew up in the same time.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm an '80s baby too, and so yep, grew up in the '90s when all that awesome music was coming out. So,
yeah.
is there anyone on your playlist right now that would surprise people?
Ooh. Maybe. um, because it was really weird. Like yesterday, I was listening to a lot of like post punk stuff. And I like the Cure and the Smiths and stuff like that. Joy Division and all that. And but I switched up in the middle of a workout that I was actually doing, and uh, went to. I really like this artist named Christian French. I don't know, but he's like super poppy. Very. I don't even know how you would describe his music. Some of it's kind of lo-fi in a way,
Okay.
but he definitely has like very very catchy melodies and more guitar work and stuff that's happening there. So it even kind of has a little bit of a hip hop flavor to it as well, kind of mixed in. Um, but I that might be a surprise that it's really poppy.
Yeah.
and, but I love it, like because it's something about it is really dark too. That's my favorite thing. Like you're gonna
Hmm.
with the darkness in any type of music. Like if it in so he does have that kind of edge happening. There is something that is somber and a little depressing in a very pretty poppy package.
Yeah.
That makes
Very- Yeah. I think it's cool to have different influences too. Some of the best music comes when, bands try new things, sample different sounds. So I think it's cool to listen to stuff that's not your normal genre.
yeah, definitely. One of my all-time favorite bands too that I should have mentioned in the Type of Negative.
Hmm.
Um, love them. And when I was doing more like reading about a lot of like Peter Steele's influences on like October Rust and different albums, it was surprising to see how much he was pulling from other genres that you would not have expected. I can't remember like really any examples right now, but a lot of it was a real poppy and real bright that he somehow incorporated into some of the darkest, heaviest, most beautiful music I've ever heard.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
What are all the instruments that you play?
I play and teach guitar, drums, bass, mandolin, and ukulele.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, do you teach like online, or how do you find your students?
Yeah, kind of all the above. I teach at a local music store, and like Monday through Thursdays typically. And then I also teach at my home studio here where I rehearse and record and teach as well. And I do the online thing. That a lot of that started with the whole COVID
Mhm.
situation, but I did start um, through that being able to teach people out of state, across the country, all over, and it's been pretty cool. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome. Well, if anybody's interested in taking lessons, definitely reach out. Um, who would your dream collaboration be with?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And it's funny because I feel like I think about that all the time and daydream. I listen to my favorite bands. And how cool it would be to share the stage with them or whatever. But now when I'm asked about it, who would I? Geez, there's a few people. I would have to go back to Social Distortion and Alkaline Trio, and because I've said this in ways before that if I ever got to collab with them, I could hang it up the next day. I could be like, well, yeah,
Right?
as high
Can't go
as
any
I,
higher.
yeah, like that. This is it, guys. Like that would be just amazing. And there's talks of, and I'm not sure, but um, the guitar player in my band is working with another promoter for a show next year here in Atlanta, and it's like pretty definite. But at the same time, I'm not getting my hopes up. But they're talking about we're getting to open for Social Distortion when they come through here. But I don't know. Like I am not getting my hopes
Yeah.
up until I'm standing shaking. Then I'll believe it. Yeah.
Well, that would be amazing. We'll put all the good vibes out there. Hopefully it'll come true for you.
Yeah, thank you. And right then, like I said, I could call it quits if I. But I'd like an actual like collab, like to get on a track or something. Yeah, yeah, that would be so cool. Social Distortion or Alkaline Trio would probably be my first two picks.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Picks and Sticks wants to know if you could only play one instrument, including singing, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough question too. I think I, I have a passion for all the instruments, and I have a great time when I do any of it. Um, and but I will say, I think singing and playing guitar at the beginning and end of every day of my life is really my favorite. That would be what I enjoy probably the most. Again, I like everything. I have just a good time playing other instruments, and can find so much joy in doing whatever. If I'm your bass player, if I'm your drummer, or if I'm just strumming ukulele, like I'm having a blast, and I can find somewhere to be with it, and that's really cool to me. But I write all my songs on a guitar. I, at the end of the day, I'm playing guitar and I'm singing, so that would have to be the answer to that question.
Awesome. What is your creative process like when you're making new music?
Um, it starts like a couple different ways. Sometimes I'll get a melody in my head that is stuck there. Oftentimes when I'm driving, I travel a lot, or even a lot of times it happens when I'm trying to go to sleep. And I'll get up and I'll just sing that melody into my phone, like and use the voice notes
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. Um, and then the next day, I'll listen to it again and see if I like it anymore. Because the next day I'm like, oh, that's awful. Don't use it.
Yeah.
Like it seemed cool. Um, but I will take that melody and then start putting a guitar part to it and start to kind of create a song um, with it that way. That's one way that it happens a lot. Sometimes it kind of happens the other way around, where I think of a cool guitar line and I'm like, ooh, that would be cool. That's a cool lick. What chords would go behind that? And then I create that and I'm like, all right, that's cool. We got something here. And what could you sing over that? I don't know. Go into that process. Go into it through that process. And then sometimes, sometimes, a lot of times I don't have a subject. It's all that stuff. I just have these pieces, and then I figure out what I want to be talking about later. Sometimes, more rarely, it works to where I do have something on my mind that I want to talk about, that I want to write about, that I want to sing about, and then it can kind of come from there.
Okay.
Kind of go that way.
Yeah. Is there a song of yours that means the most to you and why?
Um, I don't know.
That's fine. I know I've been told before that's like asking who your favorite child is, like if you have kids.
Yeah, they all have some sort of special meaning to me. I wanted to for a while, and I still kind of play with the idea of just like writing fictitious stories through music. Write a song about something like kind of like Coheed and Cambria, or like kind of create some kind of storyline that's not real, but write about it like it is or whatever. And I just don't know if I'm that kind of writer. So because every time I've tried, it just hasn't felt right. Everything, so it just ends up to where everything that I write is about things that really happened and in my life. So it all means something to me. you know? So that would be the best way I think I could answer that.
Yeah,
It's hard to pick one. Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, usually represents something that happened in life, some time period, some event, some situation. Um, so yeah, it's all it's kind of like tattoos. Like they all mean. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, people are like, "What's your favorite tattoo?" I don't know. They all mean different things to me, so yeah, it's hard to say.
yeah, yeah. That's would be the best way that I could think to answer that.
Yeah. What is the funniest or craziest thing that's happened at a show?
At a show. Oh, geez. God, it's crazy because a buddy of mine and I were thinking about starting a podcast that was just stories, just storytelling, because I feel like I have so many things. I've played with so many different groups. I've literally been all over the world, and so many awesome things have happened, crazy and funny, and oh, I'm trying to think. I can't think of an example off the top of my head all of a sudden. Geez, that's a good question. And like I said, I'm usually full of so many stories. Um, I mean, growing up, like doing the punk rock scene, you had a lot of like altercations. A lot of it was so physical. And then, alcohol and everything else, and just living fast. And, it
Yeah.
was pretty violent at times. And so some of that's kind of crazy. But then you have some of the European stuff. God, I'm trying to think of like something that happened in particular at a show. I can't think. It's more things that like kind of based around the tours. Where some of the most fun have happened is just the things kind of on or off or like more so off the stage, I guess.
Yeah.
Traveling around and things like that, running into crazy people and crazy stuff like that. Yes. I don't know if that answered the question because I can't think of an example. I
No
don't know.
worries. If you think of one, let us know. So maybe what's your favorite thing that happened off the stage?
Um, there was oh, one that does kind of come to mind. There was this crazy situation. We were touring around. I was playing with these bands. I was playing with two different bands at the same time on the road, and so I would just do two sets. I was the lead guitar player for both these bands. And we were tripping around one day. Uh, Me and my girlfriend actually, and we went to visit this town. Um, it was like this abandoned old town from like the Civil War era kind of thing. And we had went to go eat somewhere, and we sat down, and there was no one. There was no one in the town, like literally at all. There was all these stores, and they were all just like closed, and there was no one walking around. There was nothing. And we sat down at a restaurant, which was the only place that was open, and we ordered a burger or whatever. And it was during a time like it wasn't even close to Easter. Is what I'm trying to. It's got a point because all of a sudden the Easter Bunny came in, to,
Oh, wow.
um, and it was just like crazy, and we were like, why is the Easter Bunny here? And so this person dressed in an Easter Bunny costume like came to the counter, I guess ordered food. I don't even know. I never heard it speak or anything. And then it just sat down at this table all by itself. Again, because there's no one. There was literally no one else, and it just sat there, and it didn't like move or anything. It didn't have a basket of candy or eggs or nothing. It just sat there in the creepiest way. Never did anything that you would think an Easter bunny would do. Like, hi, I'm the Easter bunny. Like, or, what do you want for Easter? Like nothing that you would think do. And it was so creepy and awesome all at the same time. Um, and again, no kids came, nothing. Just a part in the middle of the day, not even close to Easter, dressed in a full Easter bunny costume, just sat at a table by itself and didn't move, didn't eat, didn't do anything. And we were just like so creeped out by it. But at the same time, like laughing our asses off. Like it was just like, this is what is happening right now, kind of thing. So that would be, and then I went to go play the show later on that day and told the rest of the like, so we kind of met the Easter Bunny today. Like it was, yeah. So yeah, that
That
was.
is a wild story. Yeah, I want to know what the Easter Bunny was doing there.
I think people and they were serving them up as hamburgers. Is one theory that we came up with.
Yeah, I feel like people sometimes just like to do weird shit like that just to see how people react.
Cool. I believe that. I've seen that kind of thing go down.
Yeah.
Um,
Or it could have just been some weirdo in a bunny suit.
yeah, we felt there for a second like we were gonna get murdered. Like how we die. It's a crazy town where no one's around but the Easter Bunny. And whoever the hell was cooking the burgers. You know what I mean? Like it was. That was it. This is how we died, and so we got out of there as quick as we could.
What is your favorite song to perform live?
um, I really like playing. Oh my God, it's one of my songs. Uh, when we play this one, it's called "Tied Up." And I've released it once as an acoustic track, But my band and I are currently in the studio, still finishing up some songs. Witches was the first one that we put out. But so we're gonna do a full band, more like punk rock version of this song called "Tied Up," and that's, I don't know. I just really like that song, the darkness that it has. It is about a reoccurring nightmare that I have had for a while, and so it's a lot of fun to play. It's just got a cool sound. I really like the way that one goes, and that's probably my favorite one to perform live. And I think that's probably going to be the next one that we release. I'm really happy about the way that song is coming out so far. So
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear it. Do you have a pre-show ritual?
uh not not really. It's always been kind of the same, I guess, process. Every time I play a show, I'm still super nervous every time, and like this same conversation goes on in my head right before I get on stage and perform. It's this the conversation goes. There's like one voice going, "Hey, why do you keep doing this to yourself? Like this is so scary." Like you could just
Hmm.
stop doing this and go home and play video games and not talk to anybody in the world. You don't have to do this. You know what I mean? Like, so, consider stopping. And then the other voice in my head's like, fuck it, just jump, just go, start doing it. So I've never jumped out of an airplane, and I have no intention on ever doing so. But I've always wanted to compare it to that, where like I'm super super scared, but then you jump and then you're flying.
Yeah.
And now it's too late. You're in this, and just fly and enjoy and do the best you can. And before you know it, you're having fun, and all the nerves go away, and you're in it, man. And it's just going. And that's what it feels like to me. And then you naturally get reminded of why you're doing this to yourself.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing that happens every time. Like right on stage, I'm like, yeah, just grab your guitar and get back in the car and go home. Like, fuck this, let's go. And then I'm like, no, I got to. And then I start playing, and then I'm like, this is awesome. So
Yeah. I think most people have a little bit of that anxiety when, you're about to do something that's a little bit scary. And I think it's just the pre jitters of like, oh, anything could happen. This could go bad. And then as soon as you start, it's just like everything washes away and you're like, this is why I do it.
that's it. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. My coworker says that's her every time she goes to work.
Yeah, I believe it.
And then Picks and Sticks told you don't stop, which is definitely good advice.
Thank you.
Speaking of advice, what is the best advice you have ever been given?
Oh, I use a couple things. One, I always say a wise man once told me, and it's true. I think a lot of this man. He's very, very, very smart. Has been through a lot, and so I just really trust him. And he said, take any job out there, even if you don't know how to do it. Just figure out how to do it when you get there. And I have applied that to music. I mean, he's not talking about music at all when he told me that. But I go about that like when it comes to booking shows. A lot of times, I don't know what these rooms are like. I don't know what this crowd is like. I don't know what this town is like. But I'm just gonna book it. If they'll let me play, then I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna do my best, and I'm gonna figure out that room. I'm gonna see what works with this crowd, with this people, because everywhere seems to kind of be different parts of the country. Some things worked better than others. And then I apply it to teaching. Um, I apply it to bands that I'm in. A lot of times, I've never played these songs before, or I've never, done this, and I just go, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
And I get there, and I'm like, and I figure it out, and then end up having a great time usually, you know, and get something out of it, whether it's a band that you're in forever, or it's a connection that you make with people or venues, um, or you learn a different style of music, or you learn a different way to approach songs that you incorporate later into your own songs or into somehow. So yeah, that would probably be some of the best advice that I've been given, and that I really live by.
Yeah. Definitely a good outlook to have. Just go for it. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I mean, more than likely things are okay, even if it's rough,
Yeah.
and it might suck a little bit, but so far you live through it and you go, okay, well, I learned something here.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it might take to fully realize. It might take me a week, and I go, oh, okay, that's what I'm getting out of that situation. All right, I'm glad I did that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Mm. Oh, geez. That's a tough one. I've been through a lot. Um, there's sometimes I wish I would have went left instead of right, or vice versa. Um, but at the same time, at this age that I'm at now, and I'm starting to realize that everything, did happen for a reason, and that we did learn from those situations, and they were all some sort of beautiful experience, even though it might have been really, really terrible. So in a way, I would say do it all the same, and try your best to live in that moment, to really, really embrace that moment, because there's been so many times, and I'm so guilty of this, and I'm still working on it. Like, I'm consciously telling myself this these days, where I put so much work into a situation, whether it's some traveling, some gig, or even with my kids, going on a trip or doing whatever. And I'm so wrapped up in what all it took to make that happen, what all it cost to make that happen, all the preparations, all the setting up, all the booking, the this, the that. Well, we got to get the groceries, and we got to get the things, and we yada yada yada. That by the time, I don't know, it takes me going through it, good or bad, to realize later how awesome that was. And I was so focused on all the stuff to get there and to make it happen, that I didn't sit there and enjoy that time and enjoy that moment, and really just breathe it in and go, man, I'm just glad to be here around these people doing this thing. And it's later on, it's a week later when it's all over and I'm back to the grind, that I'm like, damn, I didn't even enjoy that. So I've been guilty of that my whole life, and never realized how awesome it was until later. And so if I could tell my younger self, I would say, hey man, just truly embrace every moment, and just be there and enjoy it, and realize what's going on around you and who is around you, because someday some of those people aren't going to be around you anymore. you
Yeah.
know and so just soak it up, man.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's one of the hardest lessons in life is a lot of times we don't realize in the moment how good things are, or how things are never going to be like that again. And like you said, you don't fully appreciate it until you're looking back at it and like, man, that was I should have appreciated that more. But
Yeah.
you
Right.
live and you learn, right?
Yeah. So now I try to live in the moment more, the best that I can.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, obviously you make music and you teach music. Do you do anything for fun that doesn't involve music?
Motorcycles, 1,000%. I love to ride. That's one of my most favorite things in the world that doesn't involve music other than listening while you ride. And sometimes I don't even do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like the sound of the wind and everything around me. But motorcycles for sure, it's an instant relief for me. I mean, like halfway down the road, even if it's I'm just going to the store, I'm like, ah, yeah,
Freedom. Yep.
yeah, this is. I love every single thing about it. Even the scary parts, the danger of it is thrilling, I guess. And so yeah, motorcycles. I love to ride anywhere. I mean, I'll look for any excuse to get on one of my motorcycles, and like I said, even if it's just to the store, I'm like, well, I don't need a lot, so I can fit that in my book bag and take the motorcycle.
There you go.
I just, you know, a thing of milk that'll fit in my book bag, or whatever. So it would be motorcycles for sure.
Awesome. What was the first concert you ever went to?
Um, Rod Stewart. My mom is the biggest Rod Stewart fan ever in the world. And so I grew up on him. He was a household name for sure. And so my mom, I think, made sure of it that my first concert was Rod Stewart. And I remember when I was really little, I was probably like 6, 7, 8 years old when she took me to
Mhm.
see him. And I was scared shitless of loud noises when I was a kid. Like the circus, and she would take me every year, and I would just cry. And it was awful. And so my neighbor or someone, I was terrified to go to the concert because I knew it was going to be so loud, and I didn't want to do it at all. And my neighbor or one of my mom's friends or something came over or sat me in front of his stereo system. I remember, and it was the '80s, so stereo systems were big and important. And,
You-
yeah, you know, so he sat me like right in front of it, like, and he like put the speakers around me, and he turned it up like super loud. He's like, I want to get you prepared. This is what it's gonna be like, and I want to show you that you can handle this. And I was like, okay, like, all right. And he did it, and I was fine, and it was really cool. And I was like, all right, this is awesome, this is awesome. And then when my mom took me to the show, um, and I was still nervous. I was still scared. But man, when it happened, and that band came out there, and he started doing his thing, running all over the stage, being rock. The bug bit me, and I was like, "This is the most incredible feeling I've ever felt in my life,"
Yep.
and I was hooked from that point on. So,
Awesome. Yeah. That's an awesome first concert. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
um, I would like to have what Wolverine has, that where he heals himself.
Okay. Yeah.
That type thing. I don't want to fly. Everybody else fly. I'm scared of that. Right down here and kick everyone's ass, and you won't be able to beat me because I can just instantly heal myself.
That's a good one to have. Yeah, I wouldn't want to fly either because I'm scared of heights, but I would want to teleport because I love to travel, but like I hate the time it takes to get places. So like if I could just be there, it'd be great.
Yeah, That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit earlier the band working on Tied Up. Are you guys working on any other music right now?
Yes, we've got a handful of songs in the studio now. And Witches was the first one that we wanted to finish and kind of be the one that we put out there to represent um, the album and the band and who we are today. So we have a good handful in there, but we were gonna release it as an EP or whatever. But I think we're talking about just putting out singles. That seems to kind of be the way to do to do it these days. So Tied Up would be I'm that's the one I'm leaning towards. The next one I haven't really discussed it with all the guys and see if they have any suggestions of if they would rather put out another one that we have going or not. And then I'm working in a different studio. I wrote an instrumental track that's just like barn burning, chicken picking country thing that I'm working with some friends there. And that might be the next one that comes out. Actually, totally different than my band, like completely different. And because the last word I got on that was that it was getting pretty close to being finished. We were waiting on, I want to say some steel guitar parts or something. So that was one that might be the next one. I'm not sure, but as far as the band goes, I'm like I said, I'm leaning towards Tied Up, and then yes, we've got a handful more after that.
Okay, awesome. Well, something to look forward to. I know you mentioned you have a show tonight. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. I do. The most thing that I do mainly is solo acoustic shows, to where I'm traveling all over and playing for a few hours at these different venues, and I'm doing it all. Like I'm a lot of covers material, that kind of thing. And then I sprinkle in some original songs again, depending on the room, kind of where you're at and what you can get away with. And one tonight is it's more on the job side of things. What pays my bills is
Yeah.
performing and teaching. So uh, I don't, for this type of venue, the type of crowd that comes in there don't typically care about your originals. you know,
Yeah.
this, like this is one that's more of the job ones. It's fun. Everybody there is nice to me, so that's nice.
Yeah.
And they enjoy what I do, and it they keep having me back, so it's going pretty good. But yeah, it's more of the job side of things where I'm just gonna go through a lot of covers songs and keep everybody happy and get kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Taylor wants you to throw some Creed in there.
Okay. Right. I could mess with that because I see they are making quite the
They,
comeback.
they are them and Nickelback and it's just a whole thing.
Yeah, for it. I mean, it's not my favorite exactly, but at the same time, I don't know. Being a musician and being at this age, and seeing this kind of thing happen, I really appreciate it because I don't know, it gives everybody another chance, that my heart feels that. We're like, I put myself in these guys' shoes if I was Creed and they were done, it seemed like, for so long. It's like they had their moment, they had their time, and well, that's it, guys. Get off the bus, you're out of here, go back home, regular job, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know what's been going on with them for the past however many
Yeah.
years. I don't know. But that's kind of what it feels like, not knowing. So if life is giving these guys and these artists another chance to get out there and do their passion and play for a room full of people that are in love with their creation, that's amazing. And I hope that everybody gets to do that.
Yeah.
Like that's
I feel like in the last like couple years, a lot of like bands, that used to be real popular back in the day and kind of when it disappeared are making comebacks. And I think that's really cool to see. So,
Yeah, I do too. I'm totally here for it. Like I said, whether it's your favorite, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, I want everybody to win.
yeah. Well, even like the original singer of 3 Days Grace coming back and joining the new singer, like how cool is that?
How cool is that?
Yeah.
I thought that I was on tour. I guess it was a year ago, and we were on our way out to play some shows in Colorado, and we stopped in Texas, and we got to see this like '90s kind of revival show, and Candlebox played, Living Color played, and Stone Temple Pilots played, but with their new singer. And
Mhm.
at first, I'll be honest, I was kind of like standing there like, this isn't Scott Weiland. What is this? Like
Yeah.
kind of thing. But then as I watched it, and it was great. First off, they killed it. It was amazing, and it was so awesome to hear those songs again. Then this other part of me kicked in, and I thought about each one of those guys in that band and being in their shoes and trying to put myself in their shoes and thinking what it must feel like to, again, you had this fame, you were on top of the world, and all that got taken away from you, because your singer OD'd or whatever, happened, and things just change or whatever
Hmm.
musically and everything, and now you're getting a chance to play these great songs that you wrote again for an audience that loves it, and then you have this singer guy who's living a dream come true. That's his favorite band of all time, and he gets to be that singer. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it just changed my whole vibe of the show. And I was like, this is amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like it's kind of like that for so the band Amberlin.
Mhm.
The original singer Steven last year, or maybe it was the beginning of this year, announced that he's taking a break from the band. He's gonna do his own thing now, and so they pretty much took the singer from Memphis May Fire, and he's the new singer for Amberlin now. And a lot of people like give him shit for it, like, oh, who are you? You can't be doing this. And like he's even because he's a lot younger than like the guys in the band. So he even said like they were one of his favorite bands growing up, and he can't believe that he gets to sing for them now. So I think it's really cool. Like I don't understand why people hate so much when somebody new tries to take over, but it is what it is.
I've so many examples of that now too, like what you're saying. And then like the whole, what was it, Pantera thing last year, with Zach Wild and that drummer, I can't think of his name, stepping in and
Hmm.
taking of Diamond Vinny. And again, I try to see both sides, and I get it. Like, you got your old school hardcore fans that are gonna be haters, that are gonna be like, that's not Pantera, y'all shouldn't be doing this, y'all are just doing it for the money and all that shit and whatever. But come on, at the same time, at some point, it's like, hey guys, this is music.
Hmm.
It's music, and they're all friends. And why not? Why
Yeah.
Zach Wild get up there and fucking shred and just have fun with his best friends, living that legacy, or, trying to put it back out there, and let's just go to this Pantera show and have a good time and listen to these fucking awesome songs and the world keeps spinning
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
music's music. What the hell?
I I
Like,
know. Yeah, I just saw Pantera at Aftershock Festival,
okay.
and so obviously it's not the original lineup, never will be again. But like, they're still awesome. They still get up there, put on a kick-ass show. So yeah.
That's how I would love to go see it. I mean, I got the pleasure of seeing the original lineup back in the 90s, and it was amazing. But at the same time, you know, I think when they came through Atlanta recently, I was playing a show somewhere else. That's usually why I don't get to go to shows, or money, you know, because it's just so.
Yeah.
Um, but I totally would. I would love to see that outfit. I would just really like to see Zach Wild and them, you know, get up there and just give me my favorite Pantera songs. Like, this is great. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like the perfect example of that is the whole Linkin Park thing going on right now. Because, I mean,
that's another.
you got, like, I feel it's very, one side or the other. But, I mean, Chester was amazing. Nobody's ever going to compare to him. But the rest of the band has a right to move on. So,
I agree. I know that's a touchy one. I feel really bad for that girl. I mean, golly, she has just really been slammed from what I'm seeing
mhm.
online.
Yeah, definitely.
There's not another Chester. You're absolutely right. And it took me. I was one. I gotta say. I mean, I liked that first record some. But it was definitely later after the fact that I really appreciated him and was like, wow, he is much more, or was much more than I ever realized, unfortunately, when he was still here making music. And yeah, I get it. I mean, yes, again, these guys have the right to keep going and playing these songs and having a good time and giving the fans the music again. And I don't know. I guess it's kind of like anything else. If you don't like it, then you don't gotta go. Yeah,
Exactly.
fine.
Yep.
Just again, let's just let music be music and let everybody enjoy it. There's someone out there that is gonna go to that show and cry because they're so emotionally moved by this favorite song that means so much to them being brought to life again before them. Like, so how can you be mean to that?
Exactly. Yeah, Taylor also mentioned the Sublime comeback, so that was another one.
Definitely another one. That one was really big to me personally. Sublime was another one of my favorite bands. And for years I refused to listen to Rome and that whole scene. And then finally when I did, I was like, holy shit, this is really good. Like I started like Rome as a songwriter. I do wish they would have done it differently. This is just my opinion, but I wish that they would have dropped the Sublime in the title of the name,
Mm-hmm.
and just let's call it Rome. Let's just call it Rome, and you know what you're getting. You know you're going to get this guy's songs and what he has wrote with the lasting members of Sublime. And then when you go see them, you're gonna get Sublime music.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been I think that would have went over a lot better. Kind of like the Long Beach Dub All Stars. I mean, they did it with that. It was the same exact thing. You had some members of Sublime that were hanging around and Sublime's friends. They came out, they did not call themselves Sublime. They wrote new songs. A lot of them were great. And when you went to that show, you got the closest to an authentic Sublime show as you're ever going to get again. And it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And so, why couldn't they have done that with the Rome thing? I think it would have went over a lot better. You would have had less people pissed off about that um, if they would have went about it that way. Plus, you would have avoided all the legal shit that they got into with it, because they were going to
Yeah.
call it what I understand. But then the family came forward, took them to court, and was like, "Hey, you can't, just call it Sublime." And that's how they ended up with Sublime with Rome, which was a mouthful and unnecessary. Just call it Rome, and let's just know what's up with it, and let's go have a good time and hear some Sublime songs and hear some of Rome songs, and the world keeps spinning. I think that would have just went over a lot better. That's
Yeah.
again my personal opinion.
No,
I don't
I
know.
get it. And I think that's a lot of people's argument with Linkin Park too, that they should have just renamed the project instead of sticking with Linkin Park. But it
From
is
what
what it
they
is.
and they're planning on making a new album, right? Like with this girl and
Yeah,
they're like writing new music. So yeah, like it could have just been that. They could have called it something new. And when you go to that show, you're gonna get Linkin Park songs and it's gonna be cool. You know?
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Did you want to let people know how they can follow you and support you?
Yeah, Spotify, is a great way, or my website, kamusic.net, great, place to find it all. Like there you have my Facebook and Instagram and, TikTok and Spotify, um, and Venmo and Cash App. So, um, but Spotify, Kris Anderson with a K, Kris Anderson. There are a few others. I'm not the one with the cowboy hat. I'm the other one. Um,
The other one.
but that would be, my Instagram page. I think is Kris Anderson 81. I think there's an underscore in there somewhere. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that again, kamusic.net is the easiest. Just go to the website and it's all right there on the front page. I try to make it super easy for everyone.
Perfect. All right. Well, this was a ton of fun. Thanks again for reaching out. And I hope you have a good show tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you and a pleasure, hanging out with you and talking today. So thanks again so much for having me.
Of course. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Bye.